Alright, hey everyone. To be honest, I've lost count of how many attempts this is at me making this video and getting it out to you guys, so sorry it's so late. I'm learning too. Hopefully I'll get better at this whole thing as we kind of go along. But today we're going to talk about the unit circle. Probably one of my most favorite things in all of math, one of the most important things in all of math. While you're listening to this video, watching this video, I would highly recommend that you follow along with me on Nearpod. I would also recommend that you either print or sketch a blank unit circle. That way you can fill it out along with me. The habit of writing is just going to make it a lot easier on you. It'll help you remember it a little bit better. So go ahead and do that. Your code for Nearpod is QOFEP. If you want to watch this video on your phone and then pull out your Chromebook and get signed into Nearpod there, I would recommend that, okay? So pause the video, go ahead and get that set up, and then we will get going. So what is the unit circle? Well, it's this guy right here. I know it looks very overwhelming at first glance. I promise you it's not that bad, okay? A couple of things to know here is that when we say the word unit, really what we mean is that we have a circle with a radius of 1, okay? Unit being 1. And then this circle is drawn on the XY plane. Specifically, the circle is going to be centered at the origin, okay? So this point here is on the origin of a graph, okay? On this circle, we have many important angle measures in both degrees and radians that are commonly used in trigonometry and later on in math. So this is super important for you guys to know, okay? The unit circle also tells us the sine and cosine at all of these angles, which we can then use to solve for the other four. The other four being tangent, cosecant, secant, and cotangent, okay? But, Ms. Kowalski, what if I don't want to memorize all of that? Well, luckily for you, I'm so amazing that I don't make you really memorize typically anything in all of math. I just want you to understand the unit circle and how it works. If you understand it, and the more you work with it, you're just going to naturally sort of memorize all of this. So don't walk into this thinking, oh my gosh, I have so much to memorize. No. We just have a few things to understand. Once we understand those things, we'll be good to go. When we fill this out, we're going to go quadrant by quadrant. We're going to start with quadrant 1. If you know quadrant 1, you're going to know quadrant 2. If you know quadrant 2, you're going to know quadrant 3. And likewise, you're going to know quadrant 4. All of these quadrants behave more or less the exact same. The only difference is some of the positives and negatives that we see in each quadrant, okay? So you want to imagine, again, the unit circle being on your XY plane. That's going to kind of help our understanding of it. It's this right here, okay? So in the grand scheme of things, it's a really small circle. We're going to zoom in, and we're going to start to look at all of these specific things on the unit circle, okay? I know it's overwhelming. I get that. Please don't freak out. Bear with me. We're going to get through this, okay? So we're going to start in quadrant 1. Now, we've already talked about this concept right here of when I draw an angle on the grid, I'm always starting on my positive x-axis. And if I don't go anywhere, if I don't rotate at all, this is a 0-degree measure. Okay, likewise, if I haven't rotated at all, I've also gone 0 radians, okay? And then we've also talked about how the radius of this circle equals 1. If this is the origin here, and my radius is 1, well, I know then this point is 1, 0, because I'm just on a grid. Likewise, if I go up over here, I have not moved horizontally at all. Instead, I've only moved up 1 because that's my radius. This point is 0, 1. Okay, not too bad. Today, though, specifically, I'm going to talk about the degree measures and how to work our way around the unit circle in degrees, and then we're going to get into radians and points later on, okay? The general rule for degrees works as follows. Any big wedge, like this guy and this guy, those are going to be an increase of 30 degrees from our previous angle. The smaller wedges, which yes, these are intentionally smaller than the other two, these are going to be an increase of 15-degree increments, okay? If you can add 30 and if you can add 15, you can fill in all of the degrees on the unit circle. So we start at 0, I rotate up by 30 degrees. 0 plus 30 gets me 30 for this angle measure. Now from 30, I add 15 because I've rotated an extra 15 degrees to get me 45 degrees. Next, I rotate another 15 degrees. Well, 45 plus 15 gets me 60 degrees. And then I have another big wedge. So 60, I rotate another 30. 60 plus 30 gets me 90 degrees, which we already knew. We knew that if I go to my positive y-axis, that is now a 90-degree rotation, which we should end up at. We did. Okay, we're good to go. This pattern, the same plus 30, plus 15, plus 15, plus 30, holds true around the entire unit circle. So now when I go to quadrant 2, I know I just finished at 90 degrees. I know this big wedge is a 30-degree increase. So 90 plus 30 gets me 120. I also know that my small wedges are all increments of 15 degrees. So 120 plus 15 gets me 135 degrees. 135 plus 15 gets me 150 degrees. And then to end this quadrant, I'm going to add a big wedge. I'm adding 30 degrees. 150 plus 30 gets me 180, which we also already knew. We knew that my negative x-axis is 1/2 of my circle. 1/2 of a circle is 180 degrees. It's also pi radians, just to reiterate that idea. I've made one full pizza when I rotated half of a circle, okay? Well, once again, this pattern holds true in the third quadrant. So I start with a big wedge. I was just at 180 degrees. So every big wedge I add 30. That puts me at 210 degrees for my first angle measure here. Next, I add 15 to get me 220. I add another 15 to get me 240. And then I finish off this quadrant by adding another 30 degrees to put me at 270, which, once again, we should recognize that angle measure. We've seen it before. Okay? Last quadrant, quadrant 4, we just finished at 270 degrees. Big wedge tells me I add 30. So I end up at 300 degrees for my first line in this quadrant. I add 15 to put me at 315. I add another 15 to put me at 330. And then to finish up my unit circle, any circle has 360 degrees in it, which I should finish at. We do, holding the same pattern. And to also reiterate, I know that in a full circle, I have 2 pi radians. I have now made 2 pizzas. So, here's the deal. If you can add 30 and add 15 and add 15 and add 30 and repeat that same pattern over and over and over all the way around your circle, then you're going to be able to fill in all of your degree measures, okay? Again, we're not going to talk about radians yet. That will be a video for tomorrow. But the radians are going to be easier for us once you start grouping them this way. Okay, so the color coordinated system I have here is intentional. Notice, I'll just give you a quick preview. All of the red lines, my radians, have a denominator of 6. That's going to tie into what we know about reference angles. all of my blue lines have a denominator of 4. Once again, this is going to tie into our reference angle, and it's going to help us in how we classify the sines and cosines of all of these angles. Lastly, all of my green lines have a denominator of 3. Okay, so this color coordinating is intentional. I would highly recommend that on your unit circle, either printed out or in your notes, you also develop, pick 3 colors and color in your lines the same exact way that I did, because it's going to help us with grouping and understanding this thing. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and you're not sitting at home as bored as I am right now. So this was, the most entertainment I had all day. So, let me know if you have any questions, if you need any help. I will be putting out the radians video sometime tomorrow. See ya.